Hi everyone, welcome to ICA TV today on a whatever day it is. I don't know about you guys, whatever day it is, whatever month it is, whatever time it is, I've got absolutely no idea. But what I do know, my darlings, is that we've got Kim here today and we are going to talk about something that a lot of us find hard to talk about, you know, and I can go through my head now, sex, drugs and rock and roll. But maybe it's not. So I'm going to hand over to Kim and say hi. Hi, Kim. Welcome to ICA.
Hi, Teresa. Thank you so much for having me here. Not quite as exciting as sex, drugs and rock and roll, I have to say. But some people might think that what we're going to talk about is it creates excitement because we're going to talk about money.
And money's good.
Everybody loves money. And so, yes, it might not be as sexy as some things in the world, but, you know, there's that feeling that money gives us, power, it gives us stability, it gives us all the wherewithal to go out and get all of those exciting things. So on the one hand, money can be quite sexy.
I think it's very sexy. I think it's a highly, dissed topic in a lot of people's lives.
And that's the thing. It on the one hand, we all know that money makes the world go round. And, you know, without it, we can't do all the things that we want. We can't buy our freedom. We can't buy our time. But we also have this incredible element of taboo still around money. And we don't talk about it in the way that we should do. And we hide things, not intentionally, but we just don't have the confidence, or we don't know where to start when we're talking about money. So we all earn, or we all have an income of some sort. We all spend it. We all know what it is. We all know that we need it. But we don't all know how to have that conversation with our partner or our children. How many of us teach our children about money? Are we relying on the education system to teach them? Because I don't think they do. Do we know where to start with that conversation about money, other than giving them their pocket money or telling them that we can't afford the latest PlayStation for them or whatever? And we just don't have that starting point, and that follows us all through our lives.
I think it's from history, though, isn't it? I think personally, I think I was very lucky. You know, my mum and dad, I spoke to mum about money because dad used to come home. This is years ago. plus.
Oh, I'm right with you.
Yeah, and he came home with an envelope on a Thursday. There's a little brown envelope, and there was cash in that envelope. And my dad always handed it to my mum. You know, it was one of them things that happened every week, because weekly paid.
Yeah, housekeeping.
Back in the day. And actually dad used to give all his wages to mum. And mum dealt with the money, which is very unusual. You know, we're talking 40
I don't know if it was back then, because, again, the roles were very definitely defined for the majority of households. So back then, women were the homemakers, women were the mums, and they were responsible for making sure that the housekeeping covered the food, the school uniforms, the bills were paid. The father had done his bit by going out and working hard. And quite often before that envelope came home on a Thursday, he'd have stopped off at the pub and had a pint with the lads, taken his bit out before handing the rest over and saying that's it, it's now your responsibility. Out would then come do you remember those money boxes with sort of 5 or 6 slots in them that had a little marker underneath each of them, one for
gas,
the bill,
electric.
Exactly. The money would then be put in all of those to cover the next electricity bill when it came in. So women were very, very responsible for money, but yet they still didn't talk about it.
Responsibility was just passed over.
It was just there. It was assumed, and those were the days when we had family allowance books. Again, family allowance book. Mum would actually she'd sign her slip on the family allowance book, give it to me. I'd cycle up to the post office, get it stamped, get the £6 or whatever it was in return, take it home and hand it to my mum, who would then, do whatever she needed to do, whether that was buy a bottle of gin or buy, food for the week.
Might have needed it by then if it was mine.
Absolutely. But women have always had this massive amount of responsibility around money, but I don't think they realised it, and therefore they didn't teach it. They didn't share it. Good and bad.
I think women are very good at just dealing with, doing it, getting on with it. So it wasn't a conversational thing. It was just, okay, we've got this much, then we have to live to this income.
That's it. And then, of course, we got to the point where, when I was a child, I remember people who had a Barclays card or any other credit card were almost like the wealthy ones. You didn't get offered a credit card unless you were considered a good customer of the bank, and you didn't get a mortgage unless you spent a considerable amount of time actually on a waiting list, and you'd had several meetings with the bank manager or the building society manager before going and buying your property. There was none of this just click online, get a comparison, what works best for you, how many months, how many years, can you afford it, yes or no, right, the money will be in your bank account in 20 minutes. Or here's another credit card, here's another credit card. Have you got a poor credit rating? That's fine, we'll give you a credit card anyway, and you can build up your credit rating. All of a sudden we had this massive shift to available money, but we didn't have the responsibility from education that should have accompanied it. And so we shifted from this old-fashioned way of doing it that in reality would be quite nice to return to in many respects, because we knew what we had, we knew what our responsibility was, and we worked within it. We went so far the other way, we then didn't know how to handle it. And we got ourselves as individuals and as an economy into a bit of a pickle. And we were embarrassed about it. We'd maxed out our credit cards. We handed things over, having that little prayer as we sort of handed over our credit card, hoping that it was going to go through this time. But we didn't know how to avoid that, how to undo the damage that we'd done. And we certainly didn't want to go cap in hand to our parents or our other halves and say, I've been a bit of an idiot, or I don't quite understand what I've got myself into. How much did that all cost you? Did you buy that dress in the sale that made you feel happy for like a nanosecond and pay for it on your credit card, and you don't actually realise that it's not going to be paid off now for 5 months, 6 months, 3 years, 4 years? How much in reality is that purchase going to cost you? How many things have you got on your credit card that you bought years ago that you're still paying for? Even cups of coffee or petrol for your car. But nothing to show for it.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. You realise, I think we were just speaking, as it's easy to nowadays just ping.
Yeah.
Just to go and put it on this stuff. I call it ping because it goes ping. It's just gone out your bank account. And is it because we find that's just an easy thing to do and not think about it? Or is it the fact that we're used to doing it now?
Well, a bit of both, isn't it? So again, if you take yourself back 2 years before contactless was really a thing, and it only had a very low. Well, it's not much longer than that, is it? And we only had a very low level. So originally, you could only tap up to £15. So if you were buying a round of drinks in the pub for your friends, it was likely to come to more than £15. So you would have to think about putting your PIN number in, and that thought process then automatically gave you a reason to think, oh, hang on a minute, can I really afford it? Or I better not buy the next round, or after this one we'll call it a day, or whatever. You've got that something saying this has cost you a bit.
Yeah.
And then they increased it to £30 and then to £40, and now it's going up to £100.
Is it really? Wow.
Absolutely. I've been in one or two bars on a Friday night,
Have you
Might
now,
be a
babe?
surprise to you. Obviously not recently, but pre-COVID, Friday night in a cocktail bar, the music's going, we're all relaxed, everybody's making the most of happy hour, and it's like, yeah, it's my turn, I'll go up to the bar, and somebody's shouting at you, or you're watching somebody's dancing, and the barman says, do you want to pay contactless? And you just sort of glance over, go, yeah,
right,
and you tap it. And because of the noise, the excitement, the vibe that's going on, you pay no attention to how much you've just spent. And you haven't had to think about it. You haven't had to have it register. They probably call over to you. Do you want your receipt? And you just sort of go, no, it's fine. So you don't even have that bit of paper that at the end of the night you look at and go,
oh my gosh,
how many have I got? So we don't have those connections that make us realize what we're doing. So we're getting worse at this rather than better, because the technology changes all the time to make life easier for us. We want to get back out there and start living again. So when bars are open properly and we can get back out there, and we want to go on holiday, when we want to go on holiday and into a restaurant, we're more likely next time to say, do you know what, we didn't go on holiday last year, so we're going to push the boat out. Yeah, have that extra course, have that upgrade for the better wine or whatever, because you know what, hang it, we're on holiday, we deserve it. How many times do we say that? Oh, I've worked so hard, we deserve it.
And that's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that we, as a human being, we can say that quite a lot about whether it's money, whether it's food, or it's a night out. Oh, we deserve, we can just go and do. And also the things that I'm thinking about is in relation to money is that we've heard so many times a negative impact about, the normal one doesn't grow on trees, so we have also the other side of things where we actually shut down about talking about money because it's seen to be a negative, where actually it's a thing that actually opens our world.
Yeah. If you go back again to when we were children, remember all the old-fashioned cartoons, and the rich person was always portrayed as being and portly, and stood there with this air of arrogance about them. And because they were portly, it indicated that they were well fed and perhaps a bit gluttonous. And I'm even sort of thinking about some of the Charles Dickens type characters. It was always the well-off they were greedy, they were selfish, they were aloof, they were above everybody else. And the poor person in that cartoon, in that story, was wiry and thin and downtrodden and miserable and hunched over. That's it. And that's what we grew up with. If you've got money, then you're greedy. If you've got money, then you're not a nice person. If you show off about it, then nobody wants to know. Nobody likes to show off.
Nobody loves you.
I used to hear that all the time. Nobody likes to show off. And if you haven't got money, there's nothing wrong with not having a massive amount of money, because we all know that money doesn't necessarily make you happy when you've got love and you've got a beautiful family around you, and caring elements of life don't have a value on them at all, a monetary value on them at all. But yet you're still portrayed as being the poor person.
Absolutely.
You're still portrayed as being a second-class citizen. And if you had the stigma of preschool lunches, for example, back in the day, that was a big deal. You were the girl with preschool lunches. And that's hard to get over, because that stays with you then for the rest of your life, and that stigma stays with you. And even then, when you move into sort of the power movies, that we all love a good sort of bit of escapism, but again, you look at things like The Devil Wears Prada, and you've got these very very successful women, but they're portrayed as being they're portrayed as being absolute bitches. They'll step on everybody in their way to get to where they want to be, and money can buy anything that they want, but of course it can't buy them the love and respect that they really want. But that's that's not what they're after.
But that's okay though, isn't it? Yeah.
And again, we see all of these characters that sit with us. We look at them and go, "Ooh, no, if I'm successful in the corporate world, am I going to be seen like that? So maybe I don't want to be that successful. Maybe I'll hold back, and maybe I'll stay as being the lowly assistant who has the respect and the whatever of her peers, rather than pushing forward and being seen as the successful but really rather nasty piece of work at the top.
And I suppose that brings us into a conversation about that money side of it, isn't it? If you are that person who wishes to climb any ladder, whether it's running your own business or being successful in that, or even working for a different company and being successful in that, there's a huge discussion still around the fact that women do not get paid the same as men doing the same job.
Yes, and the gap is still about 20%.
So that's just on average, huge. So is that the fact that we are scared as women to go to your boss in that situation, who is likely, because of the percentage of men and women at the top of each company, is likely to be a man? So are we at the moment, because things will change, so you're going to go in there going, thank you very much for my pay rise, sir. Thank you very much for my whether it's my upgrade in the business. But hang on a second, Joe, who does the same job as me, he gets 20 grand more. Why don't I?
One of the issues there is that we don't know what Joe earns.
Correct.
Because most corporates, most large employers will actually have it as one of their requirements that you do not discuss your remuneration package with anybody else. So when it comes to pay rise time, or when it comes to bonus time, you're given yours, and it's made very, very clear that that is not to be shared. That information is not to be shared. And I know in places that I've worked over my career, it's actually a disciplinary offence to ask somebody else. What they're being paid.
Feeds into this whole conversation, doesn't it?
No. Yeah. So again, we are reliant on corporates being open and honest and saying, this is where we're sitting, and that is getting a little bit better. There was a big push a couple of years ago with the request for corporates to come out and say how much do they pay men and women for the same role or type of role, because obviously there will still be differences, and what are they doing in order to close that gap. And we heard a lot about it pre-COVID, but we've heard nothing about it since. And it all came sort of at the same sort of time as the Me Too campaign. And so there was this little element of women being empowered in lots of different ways to be able to speak up, just to speak up generally about, behaviour in the workplace, things that were acceptable, pay differentials. There was this big move towards it. And then COVID came along, took over, understandably, but we've sort of moved back away from that speaking up.
It's a bit approach. Trying to get that going again, isn't it? So it's another conversation.
So we don't know what our contemporaries are working. And it's even worse now we're working from home, because we don't have them, to talk to. When how was your bonus? Were you happy with it? Were you okay with it? Because that something will slip. Somebody will say, oh yeah, well, I didn't even get enough to cover the cost of inflation increase this year. And is that about what I got? Yeah, okay, I'm there or thereabouts. Or, oh, actually, I know that I got 5% and inflation's only 2%, so I must have done better than him. Maybe they're closing the gap. But because we're working at home on our own, in our little home offices, there's no sneaky little, peeks into somebody else's lives. You're certainly not going to get that input. So you carry on, you blindly just carry on, not knowing whether what you're earning is appropriate.
You've got absolutely no idea.
And of course, people will complain that they don't earn enough. You'll never hear anybody saying, oh,
earned too much this month.
Actually, I'm quite happy with my salary. I'm doing really well, thank you very much. I've got nothing to complain about. We don't talk about it. in a way that is really open and honest in any way. So we have to rely on those corporates to have an open policy with, proper salary bands and proper, proper data, and it's slow in coming. So we tend to just put up or shut up.
We do. So what your mission is within your business, because your business is growing, it's getting momentum, and it's the mission is there because the people are needing this, is to talk about money.
I want people to talk about money, to get rid of the taboo, to ditch the shame and the guilt and the embarrassment that comes with having money and not having money, because it works both ways. I know people who've got lots of money who are quite frankly embarrassed about it because they're afraid of being judged. And they also feel a sense of responsibility around it. If they've inherited that money, they feel that they are responsible for dealing with it in a way that the person they inherited it from would approve of. And so rather than just being allowing yourself to do what you want to do, whether that's invest it, spend it, whatever, you're shrouded by this emotion and this responsibility of what should I do?
Which takes it again to the next generation, doesn't it? You know, if you have lucky enough, or unlucky you've lost somebody, but you're lucky enough to inherit something, if you're taking on their feelings and their views into your life, you're just taking, it's just another I can't even say the word, momentum of their previous life.
Don't know how to start that conversation, and other people don't feel that it's their place to start the conversation. They see somebody who's struggling, and the last thing you want to do is to say, I hope you don't mind me saying, but, or I hope you don't mind me chipping in, but people don't do that.
I think that's your job though, isn't it? I think that's where you're going to come in.
Need to get people thinking, accepting that we've all got a history of money. It's been around for far more generations than we've got any contact with, and it's going to stay with us, and it's going to evolve, and we are going to earn it, and we are going to spend it, and we are going to give it away, and we have this responsibility to ourselves to not cause ourselves any stress about it, and not cause the next generation any stress about it, and the one after that. And we can only do that if we open up.
So I've just written something on my little pad because I'm listening.
Okay.
As I do,
As you do.
A bit of a marketer here. And I suppose, yes, we want to talk about money, but I've actually just written join the money movement. So you want people, and your ideal person that you like working with are females like me, people who are doing their own thing, whether they're in corporate or whether they're running their own business.
Absolutely.
But you want us to join a movement talking about money.
Yes.
And that's
generational. That confidence, that be proud. Don't, if you've had debt in the past, don't let that debt define you. If you've had a difficult upbringing, if money was scarce when you were growing up, don't let that define you. Equally, if money was so easy to come by that you were embarrassed by it, don't let that define you.
No.
Let's run with this. Let's be our own people, and make it work for us in the way that we need it to, the way that we want it to, and the way that's going to do the best for us. And ask the questions. Anything that you don't understand. I always say I've been driving my car since I was 17. And I passed my test first time, and I've gone through life with very few bumps or scrapes or incidents on the road for over 30 years of driving. So I consider myself to be a relatively good driver. My husband might say differently, but I consider myself to be a relatively good driver. But do I know how that car works under the bonnet? Do I still need to ask for help when there's a little orange light coming on the dashboard? And it doesn't make me a bad driver. It just means that I need to actually say to somebody, can you have a look at, but you wouldn't ignore it. You wouldn't ignore it. You don't put off getting your car looked at because you don't understand what that orange light might mean. So why should we be put off asking somebody
when a little I love the analogy, that little orange light comes up in your life in relation to money, going, hello, I'm here. What stops us going to somebody like yourself saying, can you explain what is this APR? What's that about? Yeah.
What do they say when they put this at the bottom of my loan agreement? Or where do I go to ask for help when things have got too far?
Yep.
And again, going back, bankruptcy had this massive stigma.
Yes.
But did you realize? I was absolutely shocked when I read this. A third of all big lottery winners, go bankrupt after they've won the lottery.
That's education, isn't it?
I find that phenomenal.
That's huge.
Because they get the money they've probably never had. People who play the lottery, who win it, generally aren't already incredibly wealthy because they don't need to play the lottery. Lottery is the stuff of dreams, isn't it? And people win the lottery. 70% of all those big winners, they not necessarily go bankrupt, but they lose the majority of their money because they give it away, they spend it, they make bad decisions in terms of their investments, and a third lose the lot and go bankrupt.
Mad.
What are we doing? Why are we not talking?
Why are we not talking about it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because you're never going to get that lottery win again. Percentage
wise, talking about money, likelihood not going to happen again unless you fall over. Within luck, I suppose.
Yeah. I know one person who's won it twice, and their feet are firmly on the ground, and they are amazing. But for the rest of us, things like that don't happen. Well, for most of us, they don't happen at all. And for anybody who does win a big amount of money, it's unlikely to happen again. But something isn't connecting. That bit in the brain,
money reality.
That thing we've carried with us throughout our childhood, throughout our parents' experiences and our grandparents' experiences is still with us. And the first thing we do is then go, right, I've never had money, I'm going to spend, I deserve this. Well, you've got the money now, we're a long time dead. All of those, all of those things that we've heard other people say throughout our lives. And we don't take that little moment to go, okay, this is an amazing opportunity for me.
Yep.
What do I need going forwards? What's going to really change my life for the better?
Yeah, what can this money do
my
for
children and my grandchildren for the rest of their lives? How can we facilitate that? Who do I need to go and speak to? Not my mate John down the pub,
because he ain't got any money.
Who is the right person to go to? And that's what we need to be doing. And it should be easier than ever because we've got the internet. We could just type it in and get an amazing selection of help, but we don't. We don't compute it in that way
because we don't talk about money.
Don't talk about it.
So I'm going to ask you very nicely if you can send me a link, because I know that you've got a brilliant group that's going out within the Facebook communities, and you are giving information about money. You're opening a dialogue about money. We're not there to say how much, if you don't want to at this time, to say how much you earn, or it's just literally a place where the conversation is about things related around money. So if you'd like to send me that link, I will put it up on this video. So ladies out there, please have a look. Please go and chat to Kim, because this has to happen. It's about this whole open conversation. If you think, the conversation in my head went back to the 80s, and when we weren't even talking about people's relationships, we weren't talking about the brand new lifestyle that people were choosing, and they would be called, we're going to go gay, or we weren't talking about that in the 80s. And now, fantastically, the conversation is absolutely out there and should be about mixed relationships, and that's totally across the board. That's because we spoke about it. We're talking about money in the relationship with money. Then if we're talking about it within the next couple of decades, God forbid, I think I might be you know, drinking a bit too much gin in a couple of decades time. But but it means our children and our children's children,
our grandchildren, absolutely,
will be discussing it as a general conversation, rather than going, shit, I haven't got any, what am I going to do about it, you know, how do I deal with it, what is API, what is, you know. So by then our conversation will be more open. So we've just got to talk about it.
Got to get on and do it. So my group is called Money Talk and Coffee, because that's what I want. I want that feeling of being able to sit down with a friend and be open about, you know, what you, not necessarily you know, what you earn or anything like that, but just knowing that it's not something to be hidden away. It's not, and we're not comparing, we're not in competition with anybody. But if you've got a concern, or if something's keeping you awake at night, or if you've got money and you don't know who to go to talk about it, what you should do with it, you know, bring it to the table, talk about it.
Chat, yeah. Put the kettle on.
You can get that somebody else is listening in, going, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. I'll listen in a little bit more. You know, the number of people that then message me saying, you know, thank you, because I'd have never realised. I'd never thought. I thought I was on my own. You know, so a safe place, you know, for people to talk about money. There's no judgment. There's no shame. There's no embarrassment. There's lots of good ideas, and you know, I just want people to be challenging themselves to be honest.
Awesome.
And if I can do that, then I'll be happy.
Big tick on that book, as they say.
Absolutely.
We like a tick. We like a book, which is quite cool. I'm going to say goodbye, Kim. I think that's been a fantastic opener, you know, for us, because female business owners, or female ladies, I was going to say, maybe. Are we all female ladies? I don't know. That's a different conversation. That there to join your group, because that's who you're wanting to hold a conversation with, is ladies. So if you are watching here and you're not part of Kim's group, then, you know, click the link. Let's get a conversation started. And I will say goodbye again, Kim, because I've left my words again.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you for letting me get that conversation started.
You're so welcome.
I look forward to carrying it on. And if anybody's got any questions that they want me to answer, you know, just shout. You know, let's get that conversation going. As you say, let's get that movement on its way.
Money movement. Oh, sounds cool. I like that. But I will say goodbye, my sweet. And if you're watching, thank you for watching. If you are a business owner and you wish to do something very similar, we have a chat and we do grab a coffee. It's ICA TV. So let me know. You know, we're not scary. We're sat here in our homes, as most of us are, getting our businesses out there. So give me a call and we can organise this. But thank you again, Kim, and we will catch up via all this amazing social media. And keep talking, ladies. Just keep chatting about absolutely everything, because we're good at that. You know, it sets the world right. It sets an even playing field, and we all know what we're doing. So love you all. Back from ICA TV and Teresa, and we'll speak to you all very soon. Bye then.